All right. God is great. 2 Kings chapter 23. Let's call this one Purpose Single, because we are going to see the way in which Josiah is going to seem to get most, if not all, of the entire nation of Israel to buy in to his reforms, something that is virtually unprecedented, understanding that even going back to the days of Solomon, after he was able to help raise Israel to a height above all of the other nations on the earth, it still came with the side effect of placing such a heavy burden on the workforce that they were begging for relief after Solomon was gone. By contrast, in this chapter, Josiah is going to do two things that seem to help the nation buy into what he hopes to do. The first thing is he's going to basically inform them. He's going to try to get their informed consent, which starts with, as we said, informing them. And so just as someone sat him down and read him the law, he is going to trust that if he reads the people the law with the progress they've made thus far, hopefully they will buy into making the additional changes that are necessary to perfect their good intentions, understanding that they've been trying to do the right things without knowing the actual structure of what God designed this nation to be. And so now that he sees he has a motivated population, he's going to trust them with the additional information that they need to go from being motivated to actually perfecting their work. And so after doing that, he is going to give them the opportunity to sign on by saying, look, as a leader, he is going to step up and enter into a covenant with God. Likewise, he is going to tell the nation that he wants them to covenant as well, to take their good intentions and turn those into productive actions headed in the right direction to restoring Israel to what they should have been all along. And so as the people accept this covenant, it is going to be the foundation for them moving together in a single purpose. It's going to be a little bit different from past reforms that we've seen before. See, because when Elijah instituted his reforms as a prophet, having to contend with the prophets of Baal, there was always a lot of bloodletting that went on with previous reforms. Likewise, with Hazael, when he was the king of Syria that God used to help clean out some of the previous idolatry in Israel, it came with a lot of bloodshed. And Jehu, when he took over in Israel with his reforms, they came with a lot of bloodshed. But with Josiah, we're going to see a period where, understanding that the car, like we said, is already on a collision course, he is going to show mercy to those who have bought in, even if in the past they were contributing to Israel's downfall. And so instead of the bloodshed associated with past efforts at reform, Josiah is simply going to take those who have been engaged in the kind of practices that led the nation astray and let them go, giving them the opportunity to find a more healthy fit in Israel's new purpose and their new direction. And so ultimately, the fact that he is able to get the people's informed consent and likewise get them to move in a single direction, it's going to say that Josiah is going to end up like no other king in Israel when in chapter 23, verse 25, it's going to say, before him there was no king like him who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Nor did any like him arise after him. And so that sums up the way in which Josiah, using the informed consent of the people, got them to move in an unprecedented direction and effectively carve out an era of peace during a time when Israel was headed into captivity. Understand that in the past, we have compared leadership styles like Josiah's that lean into trying to get the informed consent of a team, or in his case, a nation, to those that buy into the concept that I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. Understanding that occasionally there might be times when it is better to ask forgiveness instead of permission. Understand that in a situation where a leader gets the informed consent of the people, he doesn't run the risk of getting short-term cooperation at the expense of long-term trust. Understanding we can get the short-term benefit of people's cooperation only to lose their trust downrange if they learn that they have been either manipulated or misled or deceived in some other way in order to get their compliance. And understanding, much like many of the kings who had short-term success and long-term failure, the example that they set on the front end, if it involved manipulation and deceit, that set the tone for what they were eventually going to get back from their servants. And so by developing the wisdom to obtain informed consent, we see Josiah achieving a level of success unlike any king before him or any king since.